Hi, and welcome to another episode of Better Golfer Today, presented by Tyler Dice Golf. Thank you for tuning in. We have a great show planned for y'all today. As always, I try and provide the best insights into the world of golf, whether it is tips, instructions, equipment, or anything else golf related. This week's main topic is going to be on choosing a set of irons. As always, I'll be sharing what I'm working on, and this week's tip of the week is going to be on wedge selection, since we're talking about getting some new sticks. So let's get started. So we're talking about choosing a set of irons this week, right? How exciting, right? We are looking to buy some new clubs, looking to pick up some new sticks, right? So this is a big purchase for a lot of people. And I've noticed that sets of clubs have gone up in price roughly $300 to $400 the last few years, which is pretty crazy, right? I mean, that's a lot of money. You know, the last set of irons I bought at retail was like $650. So now I'm seeing sets go for $1,200, and those aren't even the most expensive ones. So yeah, like I said, I was at $650 last time I bought a set of clubs at retail, and they were from a pretty popular company. So like they were not cheap, and you know they were good clubs. I used them for a while, and so like I said, now I'm seeing them go for $1,200, and that's like base price $1,200. Like that's not counting if like you get exotic shafts or something, and then you're shoots up. So it's pretty crazy how things have ballooned. Golf. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now I'm not saying the new sticks aren't worth it. I mean, I totally think they are. They're way better. I mean, golf clubs today are so much better than they were even a couple years ago. I mean, golf club, if you buy a set of irons right now, they are leaps and bounds better than something you had a decade ago. Why people are still using clubs from a decade ago if they can afford to upgrade is beyond me. Because I mean, equipment is so much better. I mean, your grips are better, your shafts are better, the club heads designs are so much better. The club heads go with a variety of more golf balls now. The golf balls are so much better. I mean, it's insane. I mean, if you're using old stuff, I mean that's based off a golf ball. I mean, when they were designing the club, the golf ball was the golf ball they had. And so when that club gets released, it's essentially released on an old golf ball. Like that's the golf balls they did all the testing with. They don't have the newest stuff because you realize that they're developing this club a year in advance. So they have the golf ball from a year ago, and so clubs that were 10 years ago is using golf ball technology from maybe like 11 years ago, 12 years ago even. So I mean that's gonna be some old stuff. I mean, so the golf balls have come a long way since then, and so. The new stuff can improve so many different areas of your game. It's amazing. It's amazing that they can do that. And so, yeah, if you're playing old clubs, I mean, you're leaving a lot on the table. You are definitely not maximizing what you have with old stuff. It's just the way it is. In the past, irons hit the ball, and the rest of what the ball did was kind of up to you. Clubs now, oh my gosh, they're so much better. So now golf clubs help you with accuracy, launch conditions, spin rates, distance, descent angle, and the list goes on and on. I mean, today's golf clubs are crazy good. And what they can fine-tune you for is insane. It's pretty crazy. So, I mean, how do you go about choosing a new set of irons? What should you look for in a new set of clubs? First things first, right? First things first. You need to get a baseline with where you are with your current set of clubs. That's first. I mean, it's really important you get that down pat. I mean, you got to know where you are. I've said this in a bunch of podcasts, a whole bunch of blog posts, and a lot of videos. When you want to improve, you got to know where you are first. You got to know what your baseline is. You got to know where you're starting from, okay? Because if you don't know that, then you can't get to where you really want to go. So you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to get a good baseline with your current set of clubs. And you need to know the numbers behind those shots, okay? So, I mean, best thing to do is, if you can hit 10, 15 shots with, like I say, a wedge, 10, 15 shots with a 7-iron, 10, 15 shots with a longer iron, and, 10, 15 drivers. I mean, this is if you're doing a whole set of clubs. But if you're just doing irons, pick 3 irons. Hit 10 to 15 shots with them, and look at the best one. One that you said, like, you hit it and you're like, that's it. That's the best one I hit. Okay, look at the numbers of that. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to start trying out new clubs. And so the numbers you should be looking at, these are the numbers I most look at. Carry distance, spin rate, launch angle, descent angle, and max height. Okay, so do we all know what those mean? No? Yes? No? Yes? How about I'll just explain them so we all know what they mean. Carry distance, that's just how far your golf ball carries from when you hit it to when it first lands. That's carry distance. Pretty similar. Simple, right? Spin rate. Spin rate is the number of revolutions your golf ball has per minute. Okay, so whether it's backspin, side spin, that spin rate gets calculated. And actually, in some instances, depending on what kind of equipment you're using, it's actually monitored, not calculated. So the spin rate gets, that's how much the golf ball spins. Your launch angle, that is the angle that your golf ball is launching from the ground. Okay? So the lower the number, the lower to the ground it starts off, and the higher the number, the higher off the ground it starts off. Okay? So typically your guys that hit the ball really high, they have a high launch angle. The guys that hit it really low have a low launch angle. Descent angle. So the descent angle is the angle at which your golf ball descends to the ground from its peak. So the only way to get that number is you have to have technology or a piece of equipment that can track the golf ball as it flies through the sky. And so again, you hit the ball, your golf ball goes up into the air, and at its peak, it hits its peak, and then it starts to descend. Typically, you kind of want the golf ball to go up, reach its max, and then come down pretty, depending on what the club you have, you want it to come down either somewhat steep or pretty flat. If it comes out, if it has a very low descent angle, meaning it's a very flat shot, it's going to hit the ground and roll out a lot more. If it has a very steep descent angle, which is coming down, almost like it's falling out of the sky, that means the ball is going to land and stop faster. And so your descent angle and your spin rate are kind of the two things that play a hand in how the ball reacts once it lands on the ground. Okay, so if you don't have any spin and you have a very flat ball flight, the ball is going to roll a ton. But if you have a very high spin rate and a very steep descent angle, that ball is going to want to land and spin back. And if you have kind of a combination of the two, your ball could land, bounce forward, and then spin back. Or it could land, bounce forward, and stop. So depending on where these numbers stack up to each other and the kind of golf ball you're playing, that's going to be how your golf ball reacts when it hits on the green. The big push recently has been to, with your approach shots, have a steeper descent angle so that you can take more spin off the ball, because golf balls are less spinning than they ever have been, and so that descent angle actually stops your shot going into a green versus the spin, which is what we've typically used in the past. So what they're able to do is they're able to give you a golf ball that flies farther and use irons that hit the ball higher, and that descent angle will stop the ball quicker, and so you'll hit longer shots that stop faster, that don't spin, so you can play better in the wind, even though you hit the ball higher. Make sense? It's kind of complicated. It's pretty crazy what they can do now. So anyways, I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but that's descent angle. And then the last number I look at is max height, okay? So how high the ball ends up going. And so those are the big numbers that I focus in on when I am trying out new equipment, or new irons, I should say, new irons. Those are your key measurables for getting a good fitting. Essentially, you want the farthest flying, lowest spinning, highest launching, flat flying, and steep descending irons you can get. So, farthest flying, lowest spinning, high launching, flat flying, and steep descending irons. That's what you're going for. Does that make sense? Let me repeat it one more time. Farthest flying, lowest spinning, high launching, flat flying, steep descending irons you can get. So, right? If you can get some sort of combination that checks all those boxes, you will have a perfect set of clubs. Okay? So, you want to be mindful. All right. Also, you want to be mindful of a few other things. At the bottom end of the set, how do your wedges come into play? And at the top end, where do you stop at irons and move to hybrids or fairway woods? So you have your irons, you have your base set, which will for right now we'll say is like 9 through 6 iron. So 9, 8, 7, 6. And you need to decide if you want to go with a 5 iron, a 4 iron, a 3 iron, or if you want to stop somewhere and go with hybrids. And you want to decide if you want to go pitching wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, and lob wedge. And if you're like Phil Mickelson, go with, I guess they're called a super lob or an X wedge. That's like 65 degrees or 64 degrees. But most players don't necessarily need that. So anyways, you need to decide, the bottom end and the top end, what you want to do from there. But again, you want to get your base down. So I guess we could even say pitching wedge to 6 iron. Pitching wedge 9, 8, 7, 6. That's kind of your main set. Because most people use the pitching wedge that comes with the set of irons because it fits in better. So again, you want to decide, hey, do I want to have 4 wedges? Or if you're looking at a set of clubs and say that your pitching wedge is 45 degrees, and you say, hey, I love my lob wedge, so that's staying in there. So you have a 45 degree pitching wedge and you have a 60 degree lob wedge. All right, so odds are you're going to want to have 2 wedges in the between there to help bridge that yardage gap, that loft gap, okay? So you're probably going to want to have a sand wedge that's 55 degrees, and you're probably going to want to have a gap wedge that's 50 degrees. So you have 60, 55, 50, and 45 is your pitching wedge. So see how that kind of works out nice and even? And you'll have even yardage spacing in there, pretty even. So that's kind of where you want to go. So if you have 4 wedges, lob wedge, sand wedge, gap wedge, pitching wedge, that's 4 wedges, and you go 9 iron, 8 iron, 4 wedges, and you have 9 iron, 8 iron, 7 iron, 6 iron. So you're at 8 clubs. Throw in a putter, you're at 9 clubs. Throw in a driver, you're at 10 clubs. Okay, so you've got 4 more clubs that you can monkey with. Most people carry a 3-wood, so you had 11 clubs. And if you throw in a hybrid, you're at 12 clubs, like a long hybrid, say, maybe like a driving hybrid or a 5-wood, and then you gotta. So anyways, you see what I'm saying there? You gotta figure out what you want to do with your set. You gotta figure out, hey, if you stop at 6 iron, do you want a 5 hybrid? Do you want a 4 hybrid? Because if you go 5 hybrid, 4 hybrid, so you got putter, lob wedge, sand wedge, gap wedge, pitching wedge, 9 iron, 8 iron, 7 iron, 6 iron, 5 hybrid, 4 hybrid, driver, 3-wood. That gives you either room for another 5-wood, or a 7-wood, or a 3 hybrid. See what I'm saying? So you have room for 1 more club. So you got to figure out kind of how you're gonna build out your set. Me personally, I go with a lob wedge, a sand wedge, a gap wedge, pitching wedge 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4. Then I go with a 3 hybrid, a 3-wood, a driver, and a putter. That's how I build out my current set of clubs. I'm not opposed to maybe throwing in a new hybrid or getting a higher launching iron in there because 4 iron is essentially, my current 4 iron is essentially like a 3 iron now because the loft is so strong. So I may end up taking that out and putting another hybrid in because, hey, with the way golf balls are flying now and how good the hybrids are becoming, having 2 hybrids ain't necessarily a bad idea. So anyways, that's something I'm exploring right now. So does that make sense? So I've explained the variables. I've gone over the things you should be looking for, and I've gone over kind of what you should be looking for, the top end and bottom end of your set of clubs, right? So there's definitely a lot to take in, but the key is to have certain goals going into the fitting and having your fitter understand those goals moving forward. Sometimes they are able to hit home runs. Other times you're just able to get slight improvements. Okay, but a good fitter will match a shaft to your preferred iron head and can usually get you some very solid results. All right, so some very solid results is usually what a good fitter can get you. Now, not all fitters are created equal. Not all fitting facilities are created equal. So typically you'd like to go to a place that has either a flight scope or a TrackMan that you will have constant access to while you're there doing your fitting. This is, in my opinion, the best way to get the most out of a new set of clubs, okay? Because those two devices right there are going to track pretty much everything going on in your golf swing and in your ball flight, and they're going to be able to get you some very specific recommendations for the best equipment for you. And I'll be honest with you, there is so much good equipment out there right now that it's crazy to not think that you can't pick up a substantial amount of yardage and improve certain areas in your shot flight. It's crazy to not think you can do that. I've been very fortunate with my fittings. In my last fitting, I picked up 7 to 15 yards per iron. Okay? 7 to 15 yards per iron. I mean, I literally went from hitting a pitching wedge 135 yards to hitting it 150. That is insane. Okay, that is crazy. And I didn't even do a whole bunch of shaft testing because I was pretty much dead set in the shaft that I wanted to get. I knew what shaft I liked. I knew what shaft that felt good to me. And so I was pretty much going to stick with it. And so I just picked a head that kind of worked great with it. And 15 yards with a new wedge, which meant that I had to throw in an extra wedge in my set because my pitching wedge was going so much farther, right? Crazy. So yeah, I mean, again, you may be a low ball hitter, and you go to that fitter and be like, hey, like, man, like, I gotta, my ball doesn't spin a lot. I don't hit it very high, so I'm looking for a higher launch that'll help me get the ball in the air a little bit more so it lands a little bit softer on the green. And he may say, hey, man, like, you're using this golf ball. This golf ball is the lowest flying golf ball that they make. And so, I know you may like it, but they make a lot of other golf balls that are really, really good. He's like, I got another one right here you may want to try. And he may put a couple of those golf balls down, and you may hit them and be like, dang, like, I'm launching the ball 2.5 degrees higher just with changing the golf ball and like getting and switching the head out. And then the fitter can be like, hey, man, like, so we've picked up a little bit more launch. That shaft is okay, but he's like, I think we can get a little bit better with this shaft. And so he sticks that shaft in there, you hit it, and you're like, holy gosh darn, man. Like, that's amazing. And you pick up like maybe 3-4 degrees of launch, and so your golf ball, but you don't really have too much spin. Your spin rate stays pretty appropriate. And so you pick up like 20 yards, and your golf balls are stopping faster. Like, this is great, right? I mean, it's pretty crazy what these fitters can do. And so the key is to say, hey, like, man, like, you know what you're going for, know what you're trying to do, know what you're trying to get out of it, and explaining that and communicating that to your fitter appropriately so that he or she knows exactly what they're trying to do for you. And your better fitters have a great understanding of all equipment that's out there. And so you don't want to go someplace that just sells one club company's stuff. Okay, you want to go somewhere that has like everyone's stuff so that you can really, really, really fine-tune what you're trying to get out of it. And if they're in a position to let you try out some different golf balls to go with that set of irons, then by all means, go to a place like that. It may cost a little bit more, but believe you me, getting a great set of clubs, especially if you get a great fitting and a great result, I mean, those clubs could end up lasting you a couple years, 3, 4, 5 years, because they'll be so much better than what you could get somewhere else. When you knock it out of the park, you won't want to switch clubs. I mean, you won't even care about switching clubs. Like my last fitting, I've looked at new clubs since I've got them, but it hasn't been serious at all because I've liked the ones that I've had so much. Now they're really starting to wear out, so I have to start looking for new stuff. So I am looking for new stuff. But when I got fit my last time, I was so knocked out of the park. Everything, literally every box that I had checked, we were able to check, and so I was so happy that I haven't even looked at new stuff. And so, if you think about it, the investment you put in now lasting you 3, 4, 5 years, in terms of how many days of golf you play, I mean, it's a small amount that you would end up paying per round of golf. So, and it's worth it to have good irons that work well for you. So now that's all I got for you on this main topic. So I hope you got a lot out of it. I have a good time talking nuts and bolts on golf. So hope you got some good info here. But let's move on to what I'm currently working on. So currently, I am still working on getting more flexible, more fit, and I'm also working on delaying my weight shift to the left. So it's happening too early, and it's killing me. The early weight shift causes me to block shots to the right and sometimes hook shots to the left, and it's driving me nuts. It's been driving me nuts, but getting more flexible and more fit is actually drastically helping me improve it. So again, that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get more flexible and more fit, because it's helping me get my swing in better working order. This week's tip is going to be on wedge selection. Okay, so it's going to be pretty quick. And so when matching up wedges to your irons, you need to be able to fill yardage gaps and rolls around the green. Certain clubs should do certain things better than others, so be mindful of bounce options, yardage gaps, and grinds. Getting the right setup for wedges can be a big plus. Now, I haven't talked much about grinds and yardage gaps and bounce options, but maybe that'll be a future podcast episode. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the next one I do. Maybe it won't. So we'll have to wait and see what I got next. So that's all I got for you this week. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate y'all being here and taking the time to listen. As always, stay tuned for more great content coming down the pipe. Again, I'm really happy you're here. I really hope you get a lot out of these episodes. I really enjoyed putting them all together. I have a lot of fun putting these together. So, keep listening, keep tuning in, and thanks for being here.